Emma needs this more than you need that spare room. You just sit in front of computers all day. Initial post. I never thought I'd be writing one of these posts, but here I am at 2 a.m. in a hotel room in San Francisco, staring at security camera footage from my apartment that's making me question everything about my family. My name is Marcus, I'm 29, and I work as a senior cybersecurity analyst for a major financial firm in Chicago. It's a job I've worked incredibly hard for. 4 years of computer science degree, 2 years of graduate school specializing in information security, multiple certifications, and countless hours of staying current with emerging threats. I make good money, have excellent benefits, and genuinely love protecting people's financial data from criminals. But according to my parents, I'm the family disappointment. My younger sister Emma, 27, is an event planner. She dropped out of college after 2 years to follow her passion and started her own event planning business. She specializes in Instagram-worthy birthday parties and bachelorette weekends. According to our parents, Robert and Linda, she's the family success story because she brings joy to people's lives, while I just sit in front of computers all day doing things nobody understands. The favoritism started early. Emma was the charming, outgoing child who made friends easily and starred in school plays. I was the quiet kid who preferred taking apart electronics to see how they worked and taught myself to code at 12. When Emma got a C in math, our parents said she was creative, not analytical. When I got a B+ in English, they asked why it wasn't an A. When Emma totaled her car at 17 while texting, they bought her a newer one because accidents happen. When I asked for help with a down payment on my apartment at 25, they told me I should have saved better despite knowing I was paying off student loans. I've tried to make peace with it over the years. I tell myself that parents sometimes just connect better with one child, that it doesn't mean they don't love me. I still call them weekly, visit for holidays, remember birthdays. I even helped Emma set up her business website and secure her client database for free, spending dozens of hours on work she never thanked me for. 3 months ago, things got complicated. Emma broke up with her boyfriend of 3 years and had to move out of their shared apartment. She called our parents crying about how expensive Chicago rent was and how her business was struggling. My parents immediately offered to let her move back home to the suburbs, but Emma said that would kill her business because she needed to be in the city for networking. That's when my mother called me with a proposition. She said Emma was going through a tough time and asked if I'd consider letting her stay with me temporarily until she found a place. I live in a nice 2-bedroom apartment in Lincoln Park. I use the second bedroom as my home office since I often work remotely on sensitive projects. I explained that I couldn't have someone else living in my space due to the confidential nature of my work. I have multiple monitors, secure servers, and client data that requires specific security protocols. My home office is literally certified by my company's security team. My mother's response? Oh, Marcus, always making everything so complicated. It's just computers. Emma needs family support right now. She's actually contributing something meaningful to society, making people happy. You could learn something from her about human connection instead of hiding behind screens all day. I held firm. I offered to help Emma financially with a security deposit for her own place, even though I was saving for additional certifications. My parents said I was being selfish and cold, that family helps family. The conversation ended with my mother crying and my father saying he was disappointed but not surprised by my lack of compassion. Emma found a studio apartment eventually, and I thought the matter was settled. My parents were cold toward me for a few weeks but seemed to move on. I continued my weekly calls, sent Emma a housewarming gift, and tried to pretend everything was normal. 2 weeks ago, I flew to San Francisco for RSA Conference, one of the biggest cybersecurity conferences in the world. My company was sending me to present on our new threat detection system, a huge career opportunity. I'd be gone for 5 days, Monday through Friday. I told my family about it during our weekly call, excited about the recognition. My father said, "Well, try not to bore everyone to death," and my mother just hummed non-committally before changing the subject to Emma's latest party planning triumph, a forest fairy-themed baby shower that got featured on some influencer's Instagram. I installed security cameras in my apartment last year after a series of break-ins in my building. They're connected to a cloud service that sends alerts for any motion detection. I usually turn them off when I'm home but keep them active when traveling. It's a simple system. Cameras in the living room, kitchen, and hallway, nothing invasive. Everything was normal Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday at 3 p.m. Chicago time, while I was in the middle of my presentation to 200 security professionals, my phone started buzzing with motion alerts. I ignored them, assuming it was maintenance or a package delivery. But they kept coming. 20 notifications, 30, 40. When my presentation ended, I checked the app and my blood went cold. The footage showed Emma entering my apartment with a key, followed by 2 men carrying boxes. But that was impossible. She didn't have a key. I watched in disbelief as she directed them to put boxes in my home office, my sanctuary. She was moving in. I immediately called building security from a conference room. They confirmed that someone named Emma had presented a key and identified herself as a resident. When they asked for ID, she said she was my sister and was on the lease. She wasn't on any lease. She had somehow gotten a key to my apartment. I called Emma directly. She answered cheerfully, "Oh, hi Marcus. Mom said you knew I was moving in while you were gone. Didn't she tell you? My studio had a major pipe burst, and it's unlivable. Mom gave me your spare key. She said you'd finally come to your senses about family helping family." My spare key. The one I'd given my parents for emergencies when I first moved in 4 years ago. They'd given it to Emma and told her I approved this. "Emma, you need to leave immediately," I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. "I never agreed to this. This is breaking and entering." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Don't be so dramatic, Marcus. It's not breaking in when you have a key. Besides, Mom and Dad said you were just being your usual difficult self and that you'd get over it once you saw how much I needed this. I'm your sister. Your blood. That means more than your paranoid security protocols." I told her she had 1 hour to leave or I was calling the police. She said I was bluffing, that I'd never actually call the cops on family. "You might be cold," she said, "but you're not that cold." She was wrong. I hung up and immediately called my parents. My mother answered, and before I could speak, she launched into justification. "Now, Marcus, before you overreact like you always do, just listen. Emma needs this more than you need that spare room. You're never even home, always traveling to those computer conferences or working late. Emma's business depends on her being in a good living situation. She brings joy to people, Marcus. Real, tangible joy. You can surely sacrifice a little comfort for your sister's happiness." "You gave her my key without my permission," I said, my voice shaking with controlled fury. "You lied to her and said I approved this. You've violated my trust and my home." "Oh, stop being so melodramatic," my father's voice came on speaker. "It's just temporary. Family helps family. Though I shouldn't be surprised you don't understand that concept, given how you've always preferred machines to people." That was it. The final straw after 29 years of being the lesser child, the disappointment, the one who didn't matter. "I'm calling the police," I said quietly. "Emma is trespassing in my home, and if she's not gone in the next hour, she'll be arrested." My mother started crying. "You wouldn't dare. How could you even think of doing that to your own sister? What is wrong with you?" "What's wrong with me is that I'm done being the family doormat," I replied. "I'm done being treated like my career, my privacy, and my boundaries don't matter. Remove her from my apartment now, or I'm pressing charges." My father's voice turned threatening. "If you do this, Marcus, you're out of this family. We're done with you." "Then I guess we're done," I said and hung up. I called the Chicago Police Department and explained the situation. They confirmed that since Emma didn't have legal permission to be there, regardless of having a key, it was indeed trespassing. I emailed them the security footage showing the unauthorized entry and my text messages proving I'd asked her to leave. Then I called my building management, explained the situation, and had them ready to change my locks the moment Emma was removed. I also called my company's legal department to document everything in case any sensitive information was compromised. An hour passed. Emma didn't leave. The security footage showed her unpacking boxes in my office, actually moving my work equipment to make room for her things. She was on her phone constantly, likely talking to our parents, occasionally laughing and shaking her head. The police arrived at 5:47 p.m. Chicago time. I watched on the security feed as 2 officers knocked on my door. Emma answered, all smiles and charm. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I saw her expression change from confident to confused to angry. She showed them her key, gestured wildly, pulled out her phone presumably to call our parents. The officers remained calm but firm. One of them called me to verify the situation while standing in my doorway. I confirmed that Emma was not authorized to be in my apartment, that the key was taken without my permission, and that I wanted her removed and charged with criminal trespassing. The footage of what happened next is burned into my memory. Emma started crying, not the pretty tears she used to get her way, but angry, disbelieving sobs. She kept showing them her phone, probably with texts from our parents saying it was okay. The officers weren't moved. They gave her 30 minutes to gather the belongings she'd brought and escorted her out. My phone exploded with calls and texts from my parents, Emma, and even extended family members. The word spread quickly through the family WhatsApp group that I'd had Emma arrested, which wasn't technically accurate. She was just removed and given a citation, but the narrative was already set. I was the villain who called the cops on his own sister. I didn't respond to any of them. I finished the conference, giving my remaining presentations and attending workshops as if my family hadn't just imploded. Inside, I was a mess of emotions: anger, hurt, relief, and a strange sense of liberation. When I finally returned home Friday night, my apartment was back to normal thanks to building management who'd overseen the removal of Emma's belongings. The locks had been changed, and a new security system was being installed at the company's expense. They took the potential breach seriously. But the damage to my family was done. I was officially the son who chose his stupid computers over his sister's well-being. The son who was so cold he'd call the police on family. The disappointment had become the disgrace. I'm not sure what comes next, but I know I can't go back to pretending the dynamic is acceptable. I'm done being the forgotten child who's only remembered when they need tech support or someone to blame. Am I wrong for standing my ground? Should I have just let her stay to keep the peace? I don't even know anymore. Update 1, 2 weeks later. I wasn't planning to update so soon, but the aftermath has been more intense than I anticipated, and honestly, writing the first post and reading your supportive comments was therapeutic. First, thank you to everyone who validated that I wasn't crazy or cruel. The thousands of comments saying I did the right thing helped me through some dark moments these past 2 weeks. To those who said I should have handled it differently because family is family, I respectfully disagree. Family doesn't mean doormat. The trespassing citation Emma received turned into a bigger issue than anyone expected. Turns out, having any criminal record, even a misdemeanor citation, is a serious problem when your event planning business depends on high-end clients trusting you with their homes and valuables. Emma didn't realize this would show up on background checks that venues and insurance companies run. She called me 3 days after the incident, not to apologize but to scream that I'd ruined her life over petty sibling rivalry. She said 2 clients had already canceled contracts for upcoming events after their venues flagged her citation. She demanded I call the police and retract my complaint. I explained that's not how the legal system works. I couldn't just make it go away even if I wanted to, which I didn't. My parents escalated their campaign against me. They've called my workplace trying to speak to my manager, claiming I'm having a mental health crisis and need intervention. Fortunately, my company has excellent security protocols, and my manager, who knew about the situation, shut them down immediately. HR actually had to send them a cease and desist letter after the 4th call. They also tried to access my apartment again. My new security system captured my father attempting to use the old key, then arguing with building security when it didn't work. He claimed he had a legal right, as my father, to check on my well-being. Building security, bless them, threatened to call the police if he didn't leave immediately. He left, but not before shouting that I was sick in the head and needed help. The family WhatsApp group has been a disaster. My aunts, uncles, and cousins have all chosen sides. Most side with my parents because they've only heard their version, that Emma was temporarily staying in my empty apartment during an emergency, and I vindicatively had her arrested out of jealousy. My parents conveniently leave out that they stole my key and lied to everyone involved. Only my cousin James, who's a lawyer, reached out privately to say he thought I did the right thing. He said what my parents did could actually be considered conspiracy to commit trespassing, and I might have grounds for a restraining order. I'm keeping that option open. The most frustrating part? My parents are now claiming I've cost them money because they had to help Emma with her canceled contracts and potential legal fees. My mother sent me an itemized bill for $8,000, saying it's what I owe them for the damage I've caused to Emma's business. The audacity is breathtaking. The daughter who brings joy to the world apparently can't handle the consequences of her own actions without mommy and daddy's financial bailout, while the son who works in meaningless technology is expected to pay for everyone's mistakes. I blocked them all on everything except email, which I'm keeping open for legal documentation purposes. Every crazy message they send goes straight into a folder my lawyer, yes, I had to hire a lawyer, is maintaining. The silver lining. My presentation at RSA was a huge success. I've been invited to speak at 2 more conferences this year, and there's talk of a promotion to Chief Security Architect. While my family tries to paint me as unstable and cruel, my professional life is thriving. It's almost poetic. The very career they've always dismissed as antisocial and meaningless is the one giving me the resources and knowledge to protect myself from their abuse. Emma's business, meanwhile, is crumbling. Word spreads fast in the event planning world, and the story of her trespassing has morphed into something bigger with each telling. I've heard versions where she was stealing from a client, where she was squatting in multiple properties, even one where she was running a theft ring. I haven't corrected or contributed to any of these rumors. I'm staying completely out of it, but Emma blames me for not defending her. My therapist, who I started seeing after all this, says I'm experiencing the collapse of a system that required me to be the scapegoat. Without me playing that role, the family dynamic is falling apart, and they're desperately trying to force me back into position. She says their escalation is actually a sign that I'm doing the right thing by maintaining boundaries. I'm starting to believe her. For the first time in my life, I'm not anxiously waiting for my parents' approval or trying to earn their love. I'm just free. It's lonely and liberating in equal measure. I'll update again if anything significant happens, but for now, I'm focusing on my work, my mental health, and building a life free from toxic family dynamics. Final update, 3 months later. This will be my final update on this situation. I've debated whether to write this, but many of you have reached out asking for closure, and honestly, writing these posts has helped me process everything. The last 3 months have been a masterclass in watching karma unfold in real time. Emma's event planning business officially folded last month. The trespassing citation was just the beginning of her problems. After losing several high-profile clients, she couldn't afford her business insurance premium. Without insurance, she couldn't book venues. Without venues, she had no business. She tried rebranding under a different name, but the event planning community in Chicago is surprisingly small and interconnected. Everyone knew what had happened. The financial implications hit my parents harder than expected. They had co-signed Emma's business loan 2 years ago when she was following her dreams. With the business defunct and Emma unable to pay, the bank came after my parents for the remaining $45,000. Additionally, Emma's former clients sued her for breach of contract and won judgments totaling another $10,000. My parents, who had always planned to retire early next year, have had to liquidate their vacation home and postpone retirement indefinitely. But the real shock came 6 weeks ago. My lawyer discovered something interesting while reviewing security footage and documentation. My parents hadn't just given Emma my spare key, they had made multiple copies and given them to other people over the years, including their handyman and a neighbor, in case of emergencies. This was a massive violation of my lease agreement and potentially criminal. My building management was furious and threatened to evict me before my lawyer intervened. We sued my parents for damages, the cost of security upgrades, legal fees, emotional distress, and breach of privacy. My parents, already financially strained from Emma's collapsed business, tried to fight it initially. They claimed they had parental rights to access my home. Their lawyer quickly informed them that parental rights don't extend to adult children's private residences. Last week, we reached a settlement. My parents agreed to pay $55,000 in damages, along with a written admission of wrongdoing and a legally binding agreement to never contact me again. The $55,000 wiped out most of their remaining savings. The retirement they'd planned at 58 and 56 is now a distant dream. The family reaction has been mixed. Some relatives who initially sided with my parents have quietly reached out to apologize after learning the full truth. Others maintain that I'm a monster who destroyed his family over principles. I'm at peace with both responses. These are people who enabled the dysfunction for years by never calling out the obvious favoritism. My professional life, in stark contrast, has soared. I received the promotion to Chief Security Architect, with a 40% salary increase. The conferences I spoke at led to consulting opportunities that have essentially doubled my income. I've published 2 papers on insider threat detection that have been well received in the security community. The meaningless technology career my parents always dismissed now has me earning more than both of them combined ever did. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. 2 weeks ago, Emma reached out. Not with demands or anger, but with something I never expected, an apology. She's been in therapy since her business collapsed, and apparently, she's had some genuine realizations about our family dynamic. She said she's beginning to understand how our parents pitted us against each other from childhood, making her feel like she could only be loved if she was the special one, and making me feel like I could never be good enough no matter what I achieved. She admitted that she knew I hadn't given permission for her to move in but went along with it because our parents assured her I was just being difficult and would get over it like always. She said she's starting to see how that pattern, her getting whatever she wanted at my expense while our parents painted me as the problem, damaged both of us. Her by making her entitled and unable to handle real-world consequences, me by making me feel worthless and unseen. We've had 3 conversations since then, each one tentative and careful. She's not asking for money or help, just connection. She's working a regular job now, as an event coordinator for a hotel chain. It's less glamorous than her Instagram-worthy party planning, but it's stable and she says she's learning what it means to earn things rather than expect them. I'm not ready to fully trust her yet, and I've made it clear that any relationship we have going forward will be on entirely new terms. No parental involvement, no financial entanglement, No reverting to old patterns. She says she understands and is willing to do the work. Our parents don't know we're talking, and we've agreed to keep it that way. They're apparently telling everyone that both their children have abandoned them for no reason, that we're ungrateful and cruel. They've rewritten history so thoroughly that in their version, they were perfect parents whose children inexplicably turned on them. Last week, I drove past their house, the one where I grew up always feeling less than, never enough. There was a "for sale" sign in the yard. They're downsizing, moving to a small apartment, the retirement dreams they'd saved for destroyed by their own actions and choices. I thought I'd feel vindicated seeing that sign. Instead, I just felt sad. Sad for the family we could have been if they'd chosen to love both their children equally. Sad for the years I spent trying to earn love that was never available to me. Sad for Emma, who's only now learning who she is outside of being the golden child. And yes, even sad for my parents, who are so locked into their narrative that they'll never understand how they destroyed their own family. But I'm also hopeful. For the first time in my life, I'm living without the weight of their disapproval. I'm successful on my own terms. I'm building relationships based on mutual respect rather than obligation. And maybe, just maybe, I'm building something new with Emma, not as the forgotten son and the golden daughter, but as two adults who survived the same dysfunction and are choosing to heal. To everyone who's messaged asking if I regret calling the police that day, no. Not for a second. It was the moment I finally chose myself, finally said that my boundaries, my career, and my peace mattered. The family I lost wasn't really mine to begin with. I was just a supporting character in their story, the villain needed to make the hero shine brighter. Now I'm writing my own story. And in this one, I'm not the forgotten child or the disappointment. I'm just Marcus, cybersecurity expert, boundary setter, and finally free. Thank you all for following this journey. Your support meant more than you know during the darkest moments. For anyone dealing with similar family dynamics, know this: choosing yourself isn't selfish. Sometimes the only way to break generational dysfunction is to refuse to play your assigned role any longer. As my therapist says, the only way to win a rigged game is not to play. I'm not playing anymore. And for the first time in 29 years, I'm winning.